And welcome back to Morning Live. Now, the South African Airways, that's SAA's interim chief executive, Thomas Gokolo, says that the business rescue process has managed to do a clean-up at SAA, which will provide a fresh start to the state-owned national carrier as it resumes business. Now, Gokolo also says that the BRP team has helped in identifying areas that presented difficulties both financially and operationally, preparing him to launch his priorities for the airliner. And these includes focusing on identifying routes that are profitable and sustainable, and also the technology that will provide fuel efficiency to save costs. Now, his role is to also ensure that the organization is properly capacitated with people who are actually fit for purpose. SA Interim CEO Thomas Gokolo joins us now to have a bit of a more in-depth conversation about these issues. Thank you so much for your time and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, and thanks for having us. Good morning to your viewers and the loyal SAA customers out there.
Mr. Gokolo, so this, of course, is a long time in the making, the story of SAA, the business rescue process coming to an end, but not without controversy in and of itself, because speaking to the Portfolio Committee last week, it actually emerged that quite a substantial amount of money was actually paid to the business rescue practitioners themselves. So when we talk SAA, we talk money, we talk savings. These are things that get people's eyebrows and also their temperatures somewhat raised. So talk to us about where the airliner is right now and how soon people can expect SAA to take to the skies again.
Thank you for that question. Just to start off, the past months has been very difficult. Has been very difficult for the business. Has been very difficult for the employees and their families as well. And as management, we're very much aware of that. And we're doing our utmost to make sure that the situation improves going forward. Yes, SAA is out of business rescue as of the end of April, which means that it's back where it belongs, in the hands of management and the board. And we're quite pleased that we have made strides during the business rescue, where we moved from about over 4,000 employees, and now we're sitting just under 1,000 employees. The number of fleet in terms of aircraft has reduced as well. So we are much more a smaller airline, but the pride of the nation is still there. The quality of the service that we deliver is still there as well, although we are much more on a smaller scale. In the coming weeks, we are indeed planning to get back in the skies, because as you have seen, that there's a lot of support from South Africans who want to see this particular airline back flying again. As you have already said, that there's some challenges that we are facing, and one of the key ones is around the issue of pilots. Our view as management is that pilots are very key in what we do in aviation, in our airlines. They've played a key role in the past, and they will continue playing a key role going forward as well. As it stands, we are having discussions with them. We are meeting weekly to find an amicable solution. Where we stand now is that as management, we have put on the table a reasonable offer, a fair offer that we believe is in line with all the other offers that were given to other employees as well. And the offer that has been put on the table from pilots as well, at this stage, we find it to be unaffordable. The reason for that is that we've got money allocated for working capital that we need to utilize when we resume flying. It is quite important to note that as well, that the market is not as healthy as it used to be because of COVID-19. So we are not guaranteed that the first 3 months of flying will already be having capacity in terms of our aircraft utilization. So we need to be very careful with the little that we have from a working capital point of view to manage it with prudence. That's quite important. One of the things that you'll be aware of is that the government has indicated that there won't be guarantees given to SAA anymore. So part of the working capital, we are going to utilize it to be able to secure some of these guarantees, which will eat up a bit or eat up some of the working capital that we have. So we're excited that SAA is ready to get back to the skies. But we also cautiously understand that there are some complexities and hurdles that we need to get over before we realize that in the coming weeks.
So let's talk about the negotiations with the pilots. And as you say, you seem to not be finding each other, at least not for the moment. But of course, SAA has a very proud record, a safety record, in terms of having some of the best pilots in the world. Now, when you say that, you cannot afford what they are asking at the moment, can you take us into your confidence as the South African public as to how far apart you may be with your pilots in these negotiations at the moment? Because I also noted that you had said to the Portfolio Committee that you are wary of getting into evergreen contracts again. So what exactly are the pilots asking, and what are you offering?
Without getting into the details, because these talks are at a very sensitive stage, what I can assure the public is that we are indeed having meetings. The parties are indeed talking. And from where we are, we're not too far apart than where we were a year ago or so. We just believe that there's a line that we need to draw on the affordability part of it. Like I said, we are very thin on our working capital management. And I'm quite positive, and cautiously so as well, that the pilots will see this, because going forward, as you have said, a proud history of safety, a proud history of a good brand. And we believe that the pilots still have a role to play in the new SAA.
So, with regard to evergreen contracts, are all of those out of the way now, as we speak?
Yeah, the business rescue practitioners have done quite a good job to eliminate those contracts that disadvantages the efficiency of the business, disadvantages the ability to really ensure that we manage cost adequately. So those are out. There are still some that we are negotiating. One of them is really part of the pilot's employment structure, which is one of the things that we are discussing with the pilots to ensure that we can have a much more differently crafted contract that regulates their services to SAA.
So apart from the pilots, any other significant evergreens that are still on the table?
Not at this stage.
All right. And then the Portfolio Committee also tried to push you to give a more definite date for when SAA will take to the skies again. You'd indicated around July, August, but they wanted, at least Mr. Buthelezi asked you for a more specific date. Between last week and today, have you been able to come to a more secure date?
It was quite a fair question, I must say. The difficulty of coming with a secure date, especially when you're still dealing with the issue of pilots as a starting point as well. And also the environment. We are in a COVID-19 period as well. It brings a lot of uncertainty. So we need to stress test the model, the restart plan. So what we are currently doing, we are testing this particular restart plan, to ensure that all the variables are in place before we get up into the sky. The one thing we don't want to do is to start flying and immediately stop again because we might have missed something. So we are going to approach it cautiously, but yes, in the coming weeks, we plan on being in the skies again.
And with regard to the routes that you'll be embarking on, there is, of course, the cargo section that has been going, SAA Technical, for example. These have, proven themselves over time to be quite effective and efficient. But in terms of the commercial side of things, which routes are you looking at the moment?
We've got a draft route plan that we will publish as soon as we confirm the date. The principle we approached in terms of choosing the routes, we went back and looked at the previous performance of some of these routes. And our view is that as we go back into the skies, we need to choose those routes that are profitable, that brings us high yields. For example, at this stage, definitely you'll have a route between Cape Town and Johannesburg. We are looking at some of the profitable routes that we will publish as soon as we confirm them in the continent as well, which is what we call our regional routes as well. At this stage, we are not going to do international routes for the next 2 years or so. Reason being that we need to ensure that the working capital management is effective in a sense to sustain us on a smaller scale, and then we'll increase capacity gradually to see if we can start repositioning ourselves also by taking, those profitable routes that we did internationally in the past as well.
So with regard to staffing, and you mentioned earlier on that you've now cut down the staff complement at SAA from around 4,000 to 1,000. So how is the staffing going to look, and the sort of processes that you will embark on in order to fill these positions?
Yeah, what we are going to do, first of all, we need to ensure that we embed a new strategy, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things as well, which means that we need to do more with less. So one of the key ingredients as well is to ensure that we bring in multi-skilled people as well, but also ensure that they are representative of the demographics of the country as well. And that's how we are going to do it as well. And also identify those particular, key and highly impactful areas of our business, and make sure that we capacitate it with adequately trained, skilled, and experienced people. But we need to be very careful not to go and fill up the organizational structure by thinking like the past. So we need to make sure that there is fresh thinking first that we bring into the organization, so that as we go and fill up those particular vacancies, we fill it up with a new mindset linked to the new strategy that we want to embed in the business.
So with regard to the new strategic equity partner, and yes, knowing full well that it is, of course, the shareholder who's more attuned with that particular process, but how much do you know as the person who has to take the airline forward in the interim about that strategic partner, and how close is the shareholder to actually closing the deal with the strategic partner?
Yes, what I know is that I have to do a lot of work to get the business ready for the strategic equity partner. As you can appreciate that when a strategic equity partner shows an interest in a business, they do due diligence as well. So we need to make sure that we can present a turnaround business plan. We need to ensure that things like our compliance, as you are very much aware that for the last 2-3 years, we have not produced, annual reports, audited financial statements. We need to get those things right as well, so that we can demonstrate to a possible strategic equity partner that this is a good business that you are getting yourself into. In terms of the process, what we are aware of is that the interest has been there in terms of getting involved into SAA by a strategic equity partner, and the negotiations of the talks with the shareholders are continuing. So we are indeed getting an update on a regular basis in terms of the process that the DPE is following with regards to a strategic equity partner, but we can appreciate that it is something that the shareholder is handling directly.
And with regard to the question of voluntary severance packages, has that been concluded?
A significant part of it has been done, and there are a couple of numbers of employees, of course, that have declined and that are still going into a different process as well. So a significant part of that has been taken care of during the business rescue process.
But when do you expect to have that completed, given that the airline is about to embark on a new chapter? So surely you would have to close those chapters first.
Yeah, we'll have to close them, but they are not significant, numbers that have refused the VSPs. I'm sure within the coming weeks we'll get that right. The big one that we are discussing that I had mentioned earlier is with regards to the severance packages for the pilots. That is ongoing discussions.
And I'm sure we'll have opportunity to speak a lot more in the coming days and months. But just again, what was that date that you're taking to the airways again?
Repeat that.
The date that SAA will start flying again?
Oh yes, we did indicate that in the coming weeks, that's what we're looking at, and of course, the date that we had put out was around July and August. But it is quite important that we are cautious with that particular period as a result of the COVID-19 environment and also the internal processes like the pilots' negotiations around their contracting as well. So very optimistic, but very cautious as well in terms of what the environment looks like and some of the internal challenges that we need to manage.
Well, Mr. Thomas Gokolo, thanks so much for your time. Good speaking to you, and no doubt we'll engage a little bit more over the coming weeks and months. And that was SAA's interim CEO, Thomas Gokolo, speaking to us about the latest developments and also what is to happen going forward with the national airline. That's where we have to leave it. It is, of course, time to say goodbye to our SABC2 viewers.